It's a low-ish poly city builder colony sim that focuses on vertical integration in more ways than one. The water levels go up and down. But what about your emotional state or your ability to cope with the masses? Watch on and find out. My name is Thoraxe, and this is Strategy for Busy People. If you've got a few minutes, I'll tell you what to play. I love me a good city builder, and when I saw All Will Fall by All Parts Connected, I knew I had to give it a try. What's not to like about a city builder that looks like it's all about cities falling down? Well, I put about 6 hours into it to figure out just how to keep my city from doing that. For one, while it sells itself as being physics-based, maybe that's true, but I gotta be honest and say that I never had anything fall down once that I didn't accidentally mess up myself. So I'm not sure where all of that comes into play, but alright. I know that there were a few cases where you could build something that was unstable, but you immediately got a warning that it was going to collapse, and I know I accidentally demolished some small things that then caused some small collapses, but I didn't get some amazing epic collapse animation. I just got a oops undo kind of thing. Oh well. Anyway, we always start at the beginning, and well, the beginning of this one is that you start out with a few stranded settlers who are in a boat, who are now stuck on some islandy bits. You've got almost nothing to start with, so you have to make sure that you can survive and, in the long run, thrive. As is to be expected with a colony sim type city builder, the basic resources of food, water, and shelter are important to your inhabitants. And, in a common city builder and colony sim trope, your starting resource for constructing things is wood. Except, in All Will Fall, most of your wood comes in the form of either driftwood or disassembling rubble that was already hanging around. Your first structures are constructed of wood and junk, and you can build a research facility that allows you to unlock new technologies and better buildings. One of the drawbacks of the game, I think, is that while the game does have completely randomized maps, the tech tree isn't exactly large or wide, and most maps are similar in the context of what they have to offer, so I can't imagine that the build order here is ever going to be particularly different. You're going to want to figure out how to improve the gathering or production of your base resources pretty quickly, no matter what the map looks like. The water catcher is going to make it easy to catch and store water when there's weather, so why not build it? And while I'm meandering a bit, the water catching mechanics are definitely physics-based. Once you get to the point where you can build roofs, you can use those roofs to guide water into the water catchers, which then have to sit on top of the water storage facilities. Makes enough sense. And the need for storage facilities for the different types of goods also makes sense. But there are some tech tree unlocks for more advanced storage, which sounds good in theory. In practice, though, I never found a need for them. My colonies were never all that crazy large, so maybe that's why, but it also never seemed like anyone had to go to a storage facility to get anything out of it. So why does it matter that my remote storage for goods is eventually going to have goods get to the main central storage facility for goods? It seemed like the requisite wood just appeared for someone to construct the building. This is in stark contrast to, say, something like Aska, where you definitely needed the meat to get from the hunting hut to the storage facility so that the cook could fetch it out of storage. Okay, so we're storing water and food and wood and other stuff, and we've got some fishing going on to feed folks, and we've got some basic housing for them, but who exactly are they? Well, the game features 3 factions: workers, sailors, and engineers. As expected, each faction may have some specific jobs that only it can do in certain buildings, but for buildings that aren't hyper-specific, any warm, fleshy body will do. Each of the 3 factions effectively has its own tree of happiness and progress and buffs and bonuses, but with the exception of loyalty, you mostly just do the same things for everyone. You have some knobs you can turn to give them more water, food, or goods to make them happier. Here again, I never found myself really needing to turn these knobs. There was one event that popped up that asked me to feed people more, but outside of that, well, I mostly just ignored everyone and kept trying to build things and stuff. The weather and water mechanics in this game are also interesting for a different reason. That's because when the water level drops, it exposes new areas that you potentially couldn't have visited before. While you can't build something in an area that's actively underwater, when the tide goes out, you can build that stuff, and it doesn't appear to be destroyed when the tide comes back in my experience. So, as an example, during low tide, I was able to build some bridges to get some underwater areas, to get some metal supplies I needed, which then enabled me to build better support structures, which didn't require me to take the underwater route. That's another thing. Because of the islandy nature of the game, you end up having to build bridges to get from place to place and support structures to ensure that your wobbly things don't fall down, or to get access to more space, and so forth. Now, I mentioned events previously. These come up from time to time and you need to make choices, and inevitably those choices affect your colony in some way. The choices matter in the sense that they have immediate effects, but I didn't particularly notice that anything had any really long-term effects. Compare the choices in a game like Frostpunk, which in some cases are irreversible. Deciding to take a few more mouths to feed to get more workers or sailors is a lot different than something like, say, permanently adopt cannibalism and get a food buff but reduce happiness. The former is a choice in this game. The latter is decidedly not. There's a whole system of policies that you can enact, and enacting them costs influence. The policies lean towards freedom or control. While this sounds like it might be important, it was simply another set of knobs that I never felt the need to touch. Hey, before I give my final verdict, if this is your first episode, this one's free. But if you've watched me before, we're going to make an agreement. You help me level up by clicking subscribe, and I'll keep making these videos. I'll spend the time playing the games and making content that I hope you'll like, and you'll return the favor, okay? Leave comments, tell me what you think. It's all good. You just agree to engage. That's all I ask. The final verdict. In a weird way, this game feels a lot more like a sandbox game than a real structured city builder. The end mission is apparently to build a giant ship that you can then go somewhere else with, and that takes a ton of resources. And there is a game mode where you sail around on that ship from place to place, and presumably do the same things over and over again. But that's kind of my problem with this game, fundamentally. It just seems a lot like doing the same thing over and over again. The strategic depth is mostly on the cuteness side, and to me at least, not on the mega deep structural level like some other colony sims I've reviewed, like Norland. And it's also just an okay city builder, but the physics isn't punishing you in the face like other physics-based builders are. On my trademarked 3-point score scale of avoid, meh, and I forgot to eat, there was fish. Finally, a game with an actual food item that is consumed and is an important part of the game. But in spite of there being actual food items, the game is just kinda meh. I can see myself playing it more just for the novelty of the map randomization, but I'm not sure that would happen a large number of times. So, in the spirit of this game, I packed up my things and hopped in my fishing boat to head off for another fishing spot, I guess. Hopefully there's some sea bass. That's one ugly fish, but man, is it delicious.